Special teams are the worst thing ever. I cannot count the number of perfectly good football games I've seen ruined by a missed field goal or a dropped punt. If you surveyed coaches across all levels and asked them, hey, do you want to get rid of special teams? I believe a majority of them would say yes. We're just going to let our guys go out there and play football and not have to worry about these idiot kickers. There is no better example of how a bad special teams unit can destroy an organization than the 2010 San Diego Chargers. This team had the best offense and the best defense in the NFL and still finished a lowly 9-7 and missed the playoffs. And it was all thanks to their dreadful special teams unit. Now this Chargers team should have cruised to a playoff spot. On paper, they were the best team in the NFL by a wide margin. They put up the most yards in the entire league while allowing the fewest. They had the best offense and the best defense. That has only happened 2 other times in the past 45 years. Once was in 1996 Green Bay Packers squad led by Brett Favre, which ultimately won the Super Bowl, and the other time was in 1987 San Francisco 49ers team led by Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and Ronnie Lott. Both these teams won 13 games and had a first-round bye. San Diego only won 9 and failed to make the playoffs entirely, and it was due to their abysmal special teams. They took what could have been a Super Bowl contender and relegated them to a near miss of the playoffs. What's truly impressive about San Diego's special teams, though, is that they managed to completely sabotage their own season by week 7. That's right, they did in 7 weeks what it takes someone like Kirk Cousins 16 to do. They effectively eliminated themselves from playoff contention. And there really is no one man to blame for all this. They were incompetent at all levels. They committed way too many penalties. They missed blocks badly. They could not tackle to save their lives, and when the kicks were properly blocked for, they'd probably still be missed. It was a collection of top-to-bottom failures which spelled doom for this promising team. To give you the proper picture, I'm going to go week by week for the first half of this Chargers team season and show you how their special teams unit was truly their own worst enemy. The Chargers opened their season with possibly the worst display of kick coverage I have ever seen. The Chiefs put up a total of 219 yards via kick and punt returns this game. Week 2 saw a matchup between San Diego and the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars. The Chargers would ultimately triumph thanks to 4 interceptions from David Garrard, but the special teams tried their hardest. This Jaguars defender comes around the edge almost completely unblocked and effortlessly stuffs the punt. On to week 3, and things seem to be looking good for the Chargers special teams unit. They made it all the way through the first half without screwing anything up. Determined to rectify this, Leon Washington was kicked the ball and promptly took it 101 yards for a touchdown to start the third quarter. Now after seeing this, some coaches might opt to kick the ball out the back of the end zone or just send it out of bounds and let him have the ball at the 40-yard line to avoid another long touchdown like this. Steve Crosby, the special teams coach and architect of this dismal unit, had other plans. After a game-tying Antonio Gates touchdown halfway through the fourth quarter, Nate Kading lined up and kicked the ball off right to the 1-yard line into the waiting arms of Leon Washington. Washington took the ball back 99 yards for what would be the game-winning touchdown. On to week 4. And surprisingly, things weren't that bad. The Chargers trounced the lowly Arizona Cardinals, and sure, there were a few penalties here and there, but nothing that major which cost them any points. To follow up this relative masterclass, the Chargers opened their Week 5 matchup against the Raiders by having their first 2 punts blocked in return for points. 1 for a safety and 1 for a touchdown. San Diego would go on to lose that game by 8 points. Week 6, the Chargers special teams got off easy again. Sure, they gave up 5 times as many punt return yards as they produced, but compared to their other outings, that's honestly not too bad. Would properly defending those punts have resulted in them actually beating the lowly St. Louis Rams? Possibly, but who's to say? And finally, on to an iconic Week 7 loss to the New England Patriots. For all intents and purposes, this really was the Chargers' last chance to turn their season around. 5 losses in the first 7 weeks is a death sentence for football teams. And give the Chargers credit where credit is due. They hung right in there with what would ultimately be a 14-2 Patriots team and were with them deep into the game. After a rare stop of the Patriots offense on 4th down, the Chargers took over and drove the ball down to field goal range as time was winding down. As Chris Bryant, no relation, stepped onto the field, it looked like the Chargers might just pull off a surprise win and turn their season around. Bryant winds up, gives it the boot, and bounces it off the crossbar. Patriots win, San Diego weeps, Philip Rivers angrily sires another child. By the end of this spectacular run, the Chargers were 2-5. Their season was practically over. Undeterred by this, the Chargers special teams went out and opened their Week 8 matchup by letting a punt get blocked for a safety. Truly a spectacular display of skill by this unit. Thankfully for them, Jeff Fisher is such an incompetent coach that the San Diego squad still managed to triumph over the Titans. They would finish the year 7-2 after their dreadful 2-5 start and just missed out in the playoffs. playoffs. Now, why am I making this video? Well, I could say some deep philosophical reason, like the importance of the individual cog within the machine, and how one man can determine the fate of the collective, yada 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 yada. Really, I'm here to laugh at the Chargers team and their incompetence, and give you NFL fans some perspective. Now, sure, you could be a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and your former coach could have been firing off finger guns in the chop house and kicking kickers. Or you could be an Arizona Cardinals fan, your superstar quarterback making $50 million a year could be too busy playing video games to study film. But things could be worse. You could have been a Chargers fan in 2010 and watched your team with Super Bowl aspirations blow 5 games in the first 7 weeks because they had horrible special teams. Now, thankfully, I am not at risk at hurting the feelings of Chargers fans because, as we all know, thanks to their move to LA, they no longer exist.